Representative Gillian, Representative Tinkler, Representative Whipper, and Brady Garvin. Thank you all very much for being here. I look forward to the discussion we'll have in a few moments. When I announced my candidacy to run for president almost 7 months ago, people said, well, you know, Bernie Sanders is an interesting guy. His hair is always very neat. GQ type of guy. But you know, he's a fringe candidate. His ideas are just too radical, too outside of the mainstream. And then something happened in the last few months. We've been going all over this country. And it turns out that people are responding to a message which says that our country can in fact be much more than it is today. That if we are going to really change America in structurally important ways, that we need a political revolution. Means, very simply stated, is that millions of people, many of whom have given up on the political process, they don't vote anymore, they don't pay attention anymore, they have got to become involved and demand that the United States government start representing all of us, not just a handful of billionaires. Right. American people understand, if not intellectually, always certainly instinctually, is that we have an economy that is rigged. That in my state of Vermont, and I am sure it is true here in South Carolina, you got people not working at one job, they're working 2 jobs, sometimes they're working 3 jobs, trying to cobble together some income and some health care to provide for their families. And what people understand is there is something very wrong when our people are working so hard. I want you all to know this. In the United States of America, our people work the longest hours of any people in the industrialized world. Do you know that? In Japan, they work very long hours. We work longer hours than they do. Meanwhile, people working 2 or 3 jobs, 50, 60, 70 hours a week. Moms desperately trying to provide for their kids, and it turns out that 58% of all new income generated goes to the top 1%. That's wrong. Yeah. It turns out that over the last 30 years in this country, there has been a massive redistribution of wealth. Now, I know my Republican friends get very nervous when we talk about redistribution of wealth. They start shaking, terrible. But there has been a massive redistribution of wealth in the last 30 years. Problem is, it's gone in the wrong direction. It's gone from the middle class and working families to the top 1/10 of 1%. In the last 30 years, the percentage of wealth owned by the top 1/10 of 1% has doubled, while the percentage of wealth owned by the middle class and working families has gone down. Today in America, and I hope you listen to this one fact carefully. In America today, the top 1/10 of 1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That's America today. Brothers and sisters, what we are looking at is a rigged economy. The very wealthy get much wealthier, and everybody else gets poor. Our job together is to create an economy that works for working families, not just a handful of billionaires. There is something profoundly wrong when one family in this country owns more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American people. One family. There is something profoundly wrong when in the last 2 years, the 15 wealthiest people in America saw their wealth increase by $170 billion. More wealth than is owned by the bottom 130 million Americans. So the first point that I want to make is we are the wealthiest country in the history of the world. But nobody knows that. Because all of the wealth, virtually all of the wealth, rests in the hands of the few. And our challenge in this great country, with all of our productivity, all of our technology, all of our brains, all of our great workers and scientists, we have got to create an economy that works for the children, works for our seniors, works for the middle class, and works for the sick. And when we stand together and we don't allow our opponents to divide us up by race, whether we're born in America, we're not born in America, whether we're a man, whether we're a woman, whether we're gay, whether we're straight, when we stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. Now let me get into some specific points. Every month, the U.S. government comes out with an official unemployment statistic. Last month, it was 5%. How many people believe that real unemployment here in this country is 5%? It's not. That's right. Because that number does not include what another statistic talks about, and that is those people giving up looking for work, and those people, many of them, working part-time but they want to work full-time. Add that together, real unemployment is close to 10%. And here's another fact that we do not talk about enough in America, and it's a huge issue. A couple of months ago, I asked some economists in Washington to do a study for me. What percentage of high school graduates between 17 and 20, young people trying to get their lives together, are unemployed or underemployed? This is what they came back with. For white kids, 17 to 20, high school graduates, 33%. Hispanic kids, 36%. African American kids, unemployed or underemployed, 51%.
That's me.
Now, today in America, there's another reality, and that is we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. More people in jail than China, a communist authoritarian country 4 times our population. Now, it seems to me to make a lot more sense to be investing in our young people, to be investing in education and jobs. To be investing in education and jobs rather than in more jails and more incarceration. So here's my first pledge of the night to you, elected President of the United States. We will not have more people in jail than any other country on earth. We will have our young people working and in schools. And when we talk as to why people are working such long and crazy hours, it has a lot to do with one simple fact. Wages in America are just too low. Now you can do the arithmetic as well as I can. Somebody's making $7.25 an hour, $8 an hour, $9 an hour, multiply it by 40 hours a week, 52 weeks a year. You don't have enough money to live on, let alone raise a family. Federal minimum wage today is $7.25 an hour. Frankly, that is a starvation wage. We have got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, $15 an hour over the next 4 years. It is not